The morning began like any other on Good Morning America. Cameras glided effortlessly across the polished studio floor. Lights shimmered against the iconic curved desk, and producers whispered last-minute cues through their earpieces. But no one in the room could have guessed how quickly everything was about to fall apart. Prince Harry sat across from Michael Strawn, a seasoned broadcaster known for his calm under pressure. This was supposed to be just another celebrity interview, a friendly conversation about life, purpose, and healing. But by the time it was over, it would become one of the most talked-about moments in television history. Harry looked every inch the royal he once was. Crisp navy blazer, carefully adjusted cufflinks, and that familiar guarded smirk. He sat poised, though his eyes flicked often toward the studio monitors, as if making sure the cameras still adored him. Michael smiled warmly for the broadcast. "Prince Harry, it's an honor to have you here this morning." Harry nodded curtly. "Please," he said, though his tone didn't quite match the word. Michael kept his composure. "You've been in the U.S. for a while now. How's life treating you on this side of the pond?" Harry exhaled, his posture relaxing slightly. "It's refreshing," he said. "Less noise, fewer expectations. Here, I'm just myself, free from the old circus." The audience chuckled softly, charmed by the prince's words. Michael smiled. "I can imagine that's quite a change. But some might say the circus followed you here. Netflix deals, best-selling books, high-profile interviews. You've been quite visible since stepping away from royal life." Harry's smirk faded. "Visibility doesn't mean exploitation, Michael. I'm telling my story. People have told theirs about me for years. I think it's fair that I finally get the last word." Michael nodded. "Absolutely. But when you're in the public eye, people often feel entitled to question or challenge what you say." Harry leaned forward slightly. "That's the problem, isn't it? Everyone feels entitled to dissect my life, to turn my emotions into entertainment." Michael's tone stayed measured. "I think people are just curious. You've spoken openly about wanting privacy, yet you've also shared deeply personal experiences on very public platforms. How do you balance that?" Harry laughed under his breath. It wasn't amused, it was defensive. "You Americans love that word, privacy. You think privacy means silence. It doesn't. It means control. I decide what to share and when. That's the point." The room stiffened. Michael smiled faintly, trying to ease the growing tension. "Fair enough. Though some might say it's a complicated line to walk." Harry crossed his arms. "Complicated for those who don't understand the pressure of being born into a life where every move is recorded. You wouldn't know what that's like." Michael raised his brows. "You're right, I wouldn't. But I do know what it's like to live under scrutiny. I was an athlete for decades. I've been judged by millions." Harry gave a tight smile. "Yes, but you chose that life." "I didn't." That was the first crack in the air. Michael nodded slowly. "True, but you're choosing this interview, this platform. That means people have the right to ask, and you have the right to answer." Harry's tone turned sharp. "Or not." A few people in the audience laughed nervously. Michael chuckled politely, keeping his tone friendly. "Fair point. Looking back, would you have done anything differently?" Harry didn't hesitate. "Yes, I'd have left sooner." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Michael blinked. "That's a strong answer. Honesty tends to sound strong when people aren't used to hearing it," Harry replied. Michael smiled politely but didn't move on. "And your family? Do you think those bridges could ever be rebuilt?" Harry's expression hardened. "I'm not here to talk about reconciliation. I've tried that. Some people only love you when you play by their rules." Michael paused, his voice gentle. "I think many viewers would say family is family, no matter what. Do you ever miss them?" That was the spark. Harry's jaw flexed. "Michael," he said, his tone low, almost trembling with restraint, "if you'd lost your mother the way I did, if you were hunted since birth, you wouldn't sit there asking me about nostalgia." The studio went silent. Michael nodded softly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to touch a nerve." Harry cut him off. "No, you didn't think. You assumed. That's what the media does. Pretend empathy while secretly hoping for a reaction." Michael's smile faded into professionalism. "That's not what this is. I'm asking questions people want answers to." Harry gave a bitter laugh. "Your job seems to involve making me look like the villain." Michael leaned back. I don't think anyone sees you as a villain. But maybe they see someone who's still angry. Harry's voice snapped. Wouldn't you be? Michael nodded slowly. Maybe, but anger only helps if it leads to healing. And I think that's what people want to see. That you've healed. Harry's jaw tightened. Maybe I'm tired of being your redemption project. The air grew heavier. Michael shifted in his chair. Let's talk about your work then. You've spoken about compassion and mental health. What kind of impact are you hoping for now? Harry adjusted his cuff again, visibly trying to regain control. Real impact. We're building initiatives that focus on empathy, mental health, and rethinking privilege. Michael smiled politely. That sounds great. But some critics say your projects often feel self-centered, more about your own story than others. Harry's tone darkened. Critics, he repeated. You mean the people who profit off tearing others down? I mean journalists, commentators, and everyday viewers, Michael replied evenly. Many respect what you do, but others... Harry cut him off sharply. Others feel what? That I should shut up? That I shouldn't speak because it makes them uncomfortable? The audience shifted uneasily. Michael lowered his tone. No one's saying that, but when you share publicly, people will have opinions. That's part of the trade-off. Trade-off? Harry's voice rose. Funny word for exploitation? Michael blinked. Exploitation? Harry leaned forward, his anger finally spilling over. You're part of it too. All of this. The cameras, the headlines. This system profits off my pain. You get your ratings, your clips, and then ask me why I'm defensive. The audience gasped. Michael exhaled, still calm. Harry, I'm not profiting off your pain. I'm doing my job. This is a conversation. Harry's laugh was bitter. Conversation? No, this is an ambush. Michael straightened. There's no agenda here. These are fair questions. Harry shook his head. No, these are the same tired narratives. You people are obsessed. The phrase you people hung thick in the air. Michael's voice stayed steady. You've been open about leaving royal life for freedom. But by doing documentaries and interviews, aren't you still living in the spotlight you say you escaped? Harry's eyes flashed. You think you're clever? You think you can trap me? Michael smiled faintly. I don't need to. You're doing that yourself. The audience reacted, half shocked, half amused. Harry bristled. That's funny to you? Michael shook his head. No. Sometimes honesty sounds like humor when people don't expect it. Harry's glare was ice. You think you can sit there and poke at my life like it's a sideshow? Michael replied evenly. I'm asking questions everyone watching would ask. You came here to talk, and I'm giving you that space. I didn't come here to be interrogated. This isn't an interrogation, Michael said firmly. It's accountability. There's a difference. The word hung like thunder. Harry clapped sarcastically. Accountability. That's rich coming from a morning show host. Michael smiled thinly. And yet here you are and on a morning show. The audience didn't know whether to laugh or hold their breath. Harry's face hardened. You twist everything. I talk about trauma. I'm whiny. I talk about mental health. I'm hypocritical. Michael nodded. You can't control interpretation, Harry, only your reaction to it. Harry shot back. That's the kind of self-help garbage. People pay to hear from someone who's never suffered. Michael's patience cracked. He leaned forward, voice low and sharp. You don't know what I've been through. And attacking me doesn't make your story stronger. It just makes you look defensive. Harry's composure faltered. I'm not defensive, he snapped. I'm tired of being painted as a spoiled prince who doesn't understand the world. Then show people who you really are, Michael said quietly. You want me to perform? Harry sneered. To play the reformed royal for your ratings? I want you to be honest, Michael said. Not attack, not deflect. Harry laughed bitterly. You don't want honesty. You want a sound bite. Michael met his eyes. And what do you want? Harry hesitated, then said softly, to be understood. Then stop fighting everyone who tries. The line hit hard. The crowd murmured. Harry's face turned red. You think you can psychoanalyze me on air? Michael didn't flinch. No, but the audience can see what's happening all by themselves. That was the breaking point. Harry slammed his hand on the table. I'm not living my life for tabloids or bored morning viewers. Michael exhaled. No one's attacking you. Harry. But when you come on a show like this, people expect honesty. You're a public figure. That comes with questions. Harry leaned in. You don't want honesty. You want entertainment. You want your viral clip of the angry prince. Michael replied, That's not true. I've treated you with respect since you walked in. Respect? Harry's voice rose. You've been throwing cheap shots since the start. My family, my wife, and none of that is respect. I'm asking the questions everyone else is asking, Michael said firmly. Harry smirked. That's rich coming from a former football player turned talk show host. The insult landed hard. The audience murmured. Michael took a breath. You're right. I'm not a prince. I worked my way up from nothing. And I treat every guest the same, with fairness and respect. That's more than I can say for how you've treated this crew. Harry blinked, caught off guard. What's that supposed to mean? It means you've been rude and combative since you sat down, Michael said quietly. My team worked hard to welcome you. You've insulted them this show, and me, all because someone dared to ask you about your own words. Harry's voice shook. You don't understand what I've lived through. You're right, Michael replied softly. But maybe that's the problem. You've convinced yourself no one can understand you, so you push everyone away who tries. The audience sat frozen. Harry's voice cracked. You think this is easy? Defending myself to people who've never walked a day in my shoes? Michael leaned forward. No one's asking you to defend yourself. We're asking you to connect. That's why you're here, to show who you really are. But right now, you're proving every headline right. Harry glared. You think you know me? Then show us, Michael said. Harry's voice trembled. You want real? Here's real. I've been betrayed. I've buried my mother. I've watched the press destroy the woman I love. And now I'm sitting here watching you turn my pain into a segment. The studio fell dead silent. Michael's voice softened. Harry, I'm sorry for what you've gone through. Truly. But that doesn't give you the right to take it out on everyone who asks a question. Harry shook his head. You'll never get it. Americans pretend to care about empathy. But when I speak up, I'm called whiny. Michael replied quietly. No one said that. But you're not helping yourself right now. Harry's tone turned venomous. You think you're different? You're just another cog in the same system. All smiles on camera, but behind the scenes, it's all business. You're no better than the tabloids. Michael's patience finally snapped. His voice stayed calm, but his tone carried authority. Enough! Harry blinked. Excuse me? I said enough, Michael repeated. You've made your point. I've let you speak, even when you were disrespectful, but I won't let you insult me or this show. Harry leaned forward. You can't talk to me like that. Michael stood, his calm now replaced by control. Actually, I can. Because right now, you're not a prince. You're a guest. And as long as you're on this set, you play by the same rules as everyone else. The room erupted in gasps. Harry stared up at him, his face burning. You think you can kick me out? Do you know who I am? Michael's answer was sharp and steady. I know exactly who you are. And I know what kind of behavior crosses the line. You're close to crossing it. Harry scoffed. This is unbelievable. No, Michael said calmly. What's unbelievable is that someone who talks so much about respect can't seem to give any. For a moment, the two men just stared at each other, the prince fuming and trembling with pride, the host unshaken and composed. And then Michael turned toward the cameras. We're going to take a quick break, he said smoothly, his professionalism intact even as producers scrambled behind the scenes. The broadcast faded to black. And just like that, Prince Harry, who had come seeking understanding, walked out of the studio before the cameras ever came back on. What was supposed to be a simple interview became a lesson in composure, pride, and accountability, one that viewers would debate long after the lights went out. Because that morning on Good Morning America, the crown didn't protect him, and for the first time on live television, a prince met his match.